On this episode of the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show, we're giving you your monthly market update, and now for the update for November 2019.
Welcome to the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show, where we bring you insights into the local Central Virginia real estate market, go in depth to answer your real estate questions and concerns, and interview local figures and influencers in the greater Richmond area. And now let's get to the latest episode with your host, Chris Elliott, and co-host, Maddie Ray.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Maddie, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How's your week going?
It's going. It's a week.
I love the enthusiasm.
Well, it's just one of those weeks.
We're today outside of these doors. Friendsgiving is going on.
Yeah. Gary made fried turkey. I've never had fried turkey before.
How was it?
It just, honestly, it was like regular turkey.
It tastes like regular
turkey.
Except it's like that it's not as healthy.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I'm like, I feel a little more guilt than I do normally, which is...
The trick is to get the entire drumstick and just bite into it, skin and all. That's what tastes good.
Like right after it comes out of
that's how we did it.
Burn your whole face off.
Exactly.
Okay.
Tastes like lava.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that sounds good.
But yeah, so Gary, broker owner of Remax Action, was frying turkeys in the parking lot. So
it's good for morale.
Well, it's really funny because we've got a weight loss clinic that we share.
I didn't even think about that.
And he was actually out there this morning. He was like, "Hey, do you guys mind moving your cars so we can fry turkeys? Like, I know you guys are in a weight loss and everything, but we're looking to fry some meat."
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I didn't even put that
he
together.
He did it right in front of the door. Power move.
Pretty much.
That's
pretty
really
much.
funny.
Like, screw you and your weight loss. All right. So what are we talking about today, Maddie?
We're talking about, this is our market update for the month of November.
You having trouble with words?
Listen, you just messed. Okay, we recorded the little intro thing, and you said October.
Edit this
first.
out.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. We need to show the world that he deserves to be mocked too, just as much as I do, apparently.
Okay. All right. So let's jump into national news. So kind of for the format for the show, we'd like to talk about what's happening in national news because that's where, we get the most statistics. There's more economists. There's more money, time, and energy being poured into the national statistics. And then we like to break down what's happened in the last month in our local market and what that kind of means to you if you're somebody looking to sell your home, if you're somebody looking to buy your home, or maybe that's something on the horizon for you for 2020. So national news. So one of the things that we always like to cover today, a big myth, or I shouldn't say it's a myth, but it's a kind of conventional wisdom, is that the market tends to slow down in the fall and the winter month. Are you seeing that actually be the case, though, as somebody that's in the trenches every single day?
Kind of. I mean, it's not as poppin' as it was, April, May, June, where we had showings all the time. But
as far as like contracts and closed volume, I mean, December is set to be our second biggest month of the year, though.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Good to know you're looking at the numbers.
It feels, well, I kind of just listen to what you tell me, which I've learned is not the best course of action.
And for any outlet, no.
Well, mostly for you.
Yeah.
But for I've learned now, you've just taught me that I need to do my own research, but that is wild because it certainly feels like it's slower.
Yeah. And this is a big thing that we always like to address, especially in the last couple of years where the fall and the winter months have not necessarily been slower. So let's just kind of jump into it real quick. So if you look at the national statistics and Daniel...
Oh, are you having trouble with words?
I'm having trouble with words. I've been hanging around you too much. Oof.
Thanks.
Daniel's going to load up a graphic. Hopefully he'll just put it over like Maddie's face or
Please
something.
Please do. It's better that way.
But if we look at the national numbers, housing supply, so the amount of homes that are on the market and hitting the market, has actually been dropping for the last 3 months. What they are projecting this is going to do is that we've been talking about over the last few months in our podcast, honestly, since we started the podcast earlier this year, that we're projected to see a deceleration of prices, meaning that prices are not necessarily going to go down, but that rate at which they are increasing is going to slow down a bit. They're actually changing that tune, all the top economists now, and they are saying that because supply is dropping, demand is pretty much going to stay the same, and that is going to cause prices to reaccelerate, meaning they're going to start going up at a faster rate.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand economics.
I know what that means.
Yes. Awesome. Good deal. But Maddie, do you think most homeowners know this to be the case?
I don't think they do, Chris.
Yeah. So So talk to me about the statistics around what homeowners actually believe.
A whopping 45% of homeowners think inventory is up.
Yeah. So
up from when though? Because that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So here's the thing though. When surveyed, they did a survey. I can't remember who exactly did it. We can cite it somewhere. Or shoot me a DM and we can get you that citation. Is that the right word? Citation? Like when you cite something?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, you're good.
I didn't pay attention in school much.
Having a lot of trouble with words today.
Oh, man.
It's karma for throwing me under the bus.
That's right.
That's what
right.
you get.
Maddie and I have to count on our fingers and toes. Chris doesn't have to do that, but he can't talk.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you mean I'm great at math?
That's true.
Don't throw me under the bus with you.
All right. But getting back to business, so 45% of homeowners actually think inventory is up. So this is why we like to do this show. This is why we like to talk about this stuff, because the conventional wisdom, the collective belief is that, hey, inventory is up, things are slowing down. When we look at the hard data on a national level, prices are going to start to reaccelerate because the amount of housing inventory that's on the market has been dropping over the last 3 months. Also, when we look at it, another graphic, most listings, if we look at over time, most listings tend to hit the market April, May, and June. So if you really think about it, inventory is much lower now. In the last year, the months with the lowest month's supply of inventory were December, January, and February. That's another graphic, Daniel, we'll put in there for you. Maddie, what do you think all of this means?
There are less houses on the market.
Okay.
If inventory is lower, that means.
And
don't laugh at me.
And
Make him stop.
And with your superb understanding of supply and demand, what do you think that's going to mean for somebody that's on the market or thinking about going on the market?
Well, it would mean that there's less competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they were looking to list now, since there's the rest of the supply is low.
Yeah.
So now would be a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what typically happens is people don't hit the market this time of year, or if they're on the market, they pull their house because they say, hey, things are slow. Well, the problem or the opportunity, whatever way you want to look at it, is everybody kind of thinks the same thing. Or we hear a lot.
Groupthink.
Yeah.
I just learned about that too.
Absolutely. And you've probably heard some people that we've been talking to say this of like, hey, we're going to wait till the spring.
Yes.
Yeah. So here's the thing is everybody and their mother says we're going to wait till the spring, and then everybody tends to hit the market all in the same time. And while there's more transactions in the spring, there's also now more inventory that you're competing with. So whereas you can hit the market now and you'd be one of like 3 listings for prospective buyer to choose from, you're going to hit the market in the spring, and there's going to be more buyers, but there's also going to be more inventory to choose from.
Plus, buyers are more serious right now.
Yeah, if somebody's getting bundled up and they're going out looking for a home, they're not
messing around.
No, they're not. They're not messing around. We tend to get more showings in the spring, as you alluded to, but there tend to be more flaky, or not flaky buyers, but buyers that maybe just aren't quite serious. They're just kind of browsing and looking around. Can you read this graphic or read this quote we've got?
Can I read this graphic?
Can you read the graphic? Can you read the quote from Freddie Mac talking about what we're fixing to experience?
What we're fixing to experience
the rest of this year and the start of 2020.
Where are you from again?
New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Northern New Jersey.
But you just said we're fixing to.
Hey, I went to school in South Carolina, so
anyway.
You drink enough sweet tea, you start saying fixing.
We expect the positive momentum in sales to carry over into the fourth quarter and early next year. We forecast that total home sales, including both new and existing homes, will be 5.98 million in 2019 and increase to 6.03 million in 2020.
Awesome. Thank you for your
better at words than you are.
Your enthusiasm behind that quote.
Listen, I don't know what you want from me.
So here's what we're telling you though is it's forecasted that sales are going to continue to be strong through the remainder of this year, and they're actually going to be ticking up a little bit in 2020. We share this information once again just to debunk the myth that everything stops in the holiday market. And also there's been a lot of chatter of, hey, we're heading into a recession, a lot of fear and everything around that. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that, we're talking about broad statistics right now, and all of this information has to be segmented. Inventory levels are different at different price points. So on the lower tier, which on a national level, that's under $200,000 price point, inventory levels dropped 15.2%. So that means if you're looking at homes under 200,000 on a national level, the amount of homes on the market has dropped 15%. So those prices are going to continue to climb. There's going to continue to be a shortage of inventory around them. In the middle tier, which is 200 to 750,000 on a national level, those have dropped 4.3%. Inventory levels are still dropping, but it's been a little slower, or a little bit less rather. And then the upper tier, 750,000 or more, inventory has actually increased by 1.3%. So kind of what we're seeing, red hot market, seller's market on the lower end for that first time home buyer price point, which, in our market is probably under 250,000. In the middle tier, it's still a competitive market. We're seeing a little bit dip of an inventory, which is going to continue to help prices appreciate. And then that upper third market, you got to be spot on with your price because the margin for error is pretty razor thin on that upper market.
So the lower tier dropped by 15.2% and the middle dropped by 4.3%. Why is there such a big gap between those numbers? Is it just because there was less middle tier properties to begin with than there were lower tier?
That's a good question. I'd probably have to sit down and think about that one. I think just because the two biggest, if you look at studies, the two biggest players in the real estate or the two biggest segments of people transacting in the real estate market are the millennials, folks like you guys, folks like myself, 30 and under ish. Those folks are entering ish. Yeah, I'm 31. So. Those folks are entering into the real estate market. They're looking to buy those homes. And I just don't think there's as many people selling those. And then, you get the baby boomers that are also selling. And a lot of those people are downsizing. So they're not looking to buy this huge Mongo home. They're selling the big home and they're also buying the smaller home. So I think on that first-time home buyer price point, you've got two groups of people competing against those. You get the first-time home buyers, but then also you have those baby boomers or the downsizers that are looking to get back into a smaller home, which is why those homes are a little bit harder to find.
Yeah.
So anyway, a couple other things just to rattle off. Freddie Mac predicts that interest rates are going to stay where they are at for the remainder of 2019. Housing affordability is higher now than before the 2008 crash.
Does that mean that they're more affordable?
Yes.
Okay.
So here's why we share this. You're hearing a lot of people say, "Oh, prices have been increasing so much, it's now becoming unaffordable to buy a house. Oh, prices are going up, blah, 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 blah." The thing about it is with interest rates being as low as they are, affordability takes into account not only price, but also the interest rate on that mortgage. Because if an interest rate is lower, even if prices go up, then you could still afford relatively the same amount because the money, your interest rate is cheaper. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's less of an interest percentage of your mortgage that's going towards it.
Correct. And all of this while happening, median rents have continued to rise over the last 4 years. We'll put a graphic in there. I mean, to see how much rents have increased over the last, I think it's 20 years that's shown in the graphic. It's
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
It sucks.
How does that feel?
Oh, it sucks so bad.
Yeah. And the cool thing is you're still paying a mortgage with that. You're just not paying your own mortgage.
Yeah, that's the fun part. Like you're paying this absurd amount of money. And then at the end of it, it's like, well, I don't own anything. Yeah. Nothing came out of this.
Yeah, you're not getting any equity. There's no amortization. There's no appreciation. Nothing.
I mean, you do get a place to live, but at the end of the day, you're just pouring all your money into someone else's pockets.
That's about it.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I hate it.
But you'll get there eventually. As far as where home values are projected to go for 2020, they are projected to continue to rise. Virginia's appreciation is projected to be at a 4.9%, meaning that homes across the state of Virginia are projected to go up 4.9%. We'll round that up, call it 5% for 2020. And keep in mind, keep in mind that recession. We're going to keep beating this drum until the recession hits. Recession does not necessarily equal housing values declining. It certainly did in 2008. The housing market is really what created the 2008 recession, depression, whatever you want to call it. But in only 2 of the last 5 recessions have home values actually dropped. And before 2008, the recession before that was, I believe, 2001. Housing values appreciated through that recession.
I was 4 years old.
Were you?
Yep.
Which means I don't know how old I was.
It's okay. Math is hard.
Yeah, math is hard.
I was like 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
You were 13 years old.
Thank you. Thanks, Mom. All right, now to local news. All right, so this section, we talk about local real estate news. So we covered the national stuff. Now we're diving in, looking at the numbers in our Central Virginia market.
All right, so closed, pending, and new listings are virtually the same from September to October. So can you explain that in English?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's three numbers right there. So we look at the number of homes that have actually closed. So keep in mind, if we're looking at closed listings in, and I'll point out, so we're always looking a month behind. So the most current numbers that we have right now are October. But that means that the amount of closings in September and October was virtually the same. The amount of properties that went under contract was virtually the same from September to October. And the amount of new listings, homes that hit the market, was the same from September to October. So what that means to me is that we're certainly not, at least from September to October, we certainly didn't see the quote unquote fall slowdown or holiday slowdown, which most people think that the market tends to taper off at the end of the year.
We're debunking the myth.
We're debunking that myth. Certainly was not and I'm not saying that doesn't happen in years past or hasn't, but that certainly wasn't the case this past year, and that wasn't the case the last couple of years.
So I have a question on that. Let's say we have.
You only get 3 questions. So
can we just count how many different episodes he says that exact line?
Okay.
And make a blooper for it,
Yeah,
because it's in every single one, and we're on show 13.
It's a good joke, if I do say so myself.
It was funnier before you said it the first time. It was probably funniest in your head.
Okay.
Moving on. So let's say we have a listing that went under contract in September.
Yeah.
And it was expected to close last month, but it closed this month, as in it was supposed to close in October and it closed in November. Mm-hmm. Would something like that skew this data?
No, it wouldn't skew it, but it would just show up as a closed listing in November.
So on a small scale, if it's only 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter, but it's kind of an outlier, isn't it?
I stumped Maddie.
I'm broken. I thought I was onto something there.
She tries.
Then it's wow, so many more closed in November, and it's nope, all of these just had title issues. So,
yeah, no, I
mean?
I think there's always a small percentage any month that are supposed to close one month and then transfer to the next. I don't think there was anything on a broad scale that was happening that moved a bunch of those numbers, but certainly, there was properties that were supposed to close in August that ended up closing in September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Good question, though.
I thought so. It's better than your jokes. So there's 23% more pending listings in October 2019 versus October 2018.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, it is good. So, we talked about it going into this this fall market, that we had good fall months, the last couple of years. And I think that statistic was similar in September of this past year, but literally that means more homes went under contracts, quote unquote, sold. 23% more from one year to the next in the same month. So once again,
it's a big number too.
It is a big number. We're having more sales than we did last year, and last year fall market was great. So once again, just debunking that myth, we're having a very good fall market so far.
So this fall market's going to probably end up being better than last year's overall.
Yeah. I mean, September was, October already was. I would imagine November's going to be somewhat similar.
Cool. Exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
End of month inventory and month supply of inventory are both down 15% compared to October.
Yeah, once again, so end of month inventory just meaning how many homes are left over on the market, whether they didn't sell or they sold. There's just 15% less homes to choose from. So once again, if you're on the fence about hitting the market, or you're thinking, hey, I'm going to wait till the spring, this is yet another reason why it's not a bad time to sell right now, because there's less homes on the market and we're having more sales.
I was going to say that end of month inventory number makes sense because of the statistic we read before it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other...
Ain't that funny how math works?
Well, and so the other one to pay attention to, month supply of inventory. So month supply of inventory is a metric that just says at the rate at which homes are selling, if no new homes hit the market, how long would it take to sell out the current inventory? We've been hovering around 2.5-ish month supply of inventory, which is a red hot seller's market. And that's, once again, that number is down 15% from last year. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Ultra red hot seller's market.
That's right. Okay.
Ultra red hot. And as if we haven't hammered this enough,
Yeah.
we are not expecting a fall slowdown.
Not expecting a fall slowdown. I mean, we're in fall. We're not seeing a slowdown. I don't foresee things falling off the table in the months of November or December.
Makes sense.
Yeah, super cool.
We're on upward trajectory. Or at least an even one.
It's fucking well done.
I should have started a long time ago. Anyway, so what this means for sellers is that now is a great time to sell if you need or want to. Which I feel like we say every month.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably we do.
I
But
feel like recently that's been the case, right?
yeah, it's absolutely. Well, I mean, here's the thing: is in the last couple of years, it's been a very good sellers market. So it's hard to come out here and say anything otherwise, just because that's the truth. But more so for folks that are like waiting to, you know, maybe they want to sell, but they think they're like breaking the cardinal rule of real estate by hitting the market in the winter months.
Who wrote those cardinal rules?
You know, it's just, once again, it's groupthink, it's conventional wisdom. It's not the case this year. So if you're somebody that wants to get your property sold by the end of the year, if you need to, don't feel like you're a dummy just because you're hitting the market, because all the numbers say that now is a great time to be selling.
Yep, it's always a great time to sell with Chris Elliott Real Estate.
Oh, all right.
Plug.
A plug on our own podcast. What?
You don't say.
Also, like we said before, we're competing with less homes and there are buyers looking, you said.
Yeah, I was typing this late last night. So, I mean.
What was late for you, like 8:30?
Yeah, actually. I think I was staying up till 9.
Wow, what?
So essentially what this means, you know, we've talked about it. There's less inventory on the market. There's still buyers out there looking. So if you hit the market now, you're one of 1, 2, or 3 properties that somebody would be shopping you against, versus if you wait until the spring, you could very well be one of 5, one of 10, you know, and up and on.
All right. And holiday showings can be avoided and closing can be scheduled for January.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this is something like a lot of people are like, hey, I don't want to hit the market because I don't want to show the property during the holidays. And I'm like, okay, let's dig into this. So what days specifically would you like, do you not want to like you would just nobody in the house from November 1 to January 3rd? They're like, well, no, I wouldn't want to show it on Christmas. I'm like, okay. So we got Christmas Eve, we've got Thanksgiving and maybe Black Friday.
Oh yeah, Black Friday is a great holiday.
So
like maybe New Year's.
So out of like 45 days, we've got like 5 or 6 days we don't want to show the property.
That's doable.
Yeah, it's definitely doable. And the other thing is too, people are like, well, I don't want to have to move during the holidays. And I'm like, I totally get that. Most buyers don't want to move during the holidays. So most of the time, when we're selling properties at this time of year, we're coordinating for January closings, or we're coordinating some type of like December closing with a rent back. Because the reality is, as much as you don't want to move during the holidays, most buyers don't want to move during the holidays.
Makes sense. Just better for everyone that way. And for buyers, historically, it's a very affordable time to buy despite rising prices.
Yep. So we talked about it earlier. The affordability index, because interest rates are so low, even with prices rising, historically, it's a very affordable time to buy. So
if they wanted to wait until the spring when there's more inventory, what do you think interest rates are going to go back up?
No. So Freddie Mac is projecting that those are going to, I think it was like they're going to be 3.8 to 3.9% and pretty much hold that for all of 2020. Of course, those are just kind of predictions, but with what the current administration is doing with interest rates, and you know, I want to say the federal interest rate just got cut. I would imagine until the election, interest rates are going to stay pretty low.
Oh, cool. Do you think the impeachment hearings will have anything to do with real estate?
No, I don't.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
And for buyers also, housing values are not forecasted to tank despite any looming recession.
Yeah, so we talked about this. A lot of people, and I wouldn't say we're hearing much of this, but like some people are like, oh, well, the recession is coming. I don't want to buy because I think home values are going to dip. once again, not projected to dip. They haven't dipped in most recessions and certainly in most recent recessions. So I think you can buy with confidence knowing that you're not going to be buying something that's going to be dipping in value over the short term.
Because we just had a meeting with someone last week and they have like almost PTSD from the last time that they had a market crash.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a valid fear because a lot of people really got whacked in the last recession. So I get where they're coming from, but we just got to give them that perspective of like, hey, look, that was not a normal recession. That was like a once in a lifetime type thing. And if we look at the data, it's just not predicted. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but it's just not predicted to happen again.
You don't have a crystal ball?
I think we sold it.
Why would you? It's a great time for other buyers as buyers have given up for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are some buyers that are dipping out of the market right now just because they don't want to, quote unquote, deal with this during the holidays. It's a great opportunity. There is less inventory on the market this time of year, as we've talked about. But if you can find something you like, now is a great time to be buying.
All right.
All right. And now to the fire round. All right. So the fire round, we take your questions from social media. So Instagram, Facebook. Daniel, what did we get this week?
All right, so the first one is, and I handwrote these as a transcription, so I might flub them a little bit. Sorry, guys. Is it a good idea to list my home in December?
So, once again, based on the statistics of what we're looking at in front of us, as far as the current market. Yeah.
Nope, wait until next October.
Yeah.
11 months from now is the perfect time.
Yeah. Actually, December the 7th is actually the perfect date. They voted on it. No.
Wait, what day of the week is that?
Whatever. Based on the statistics, based on the information that we have, it's appearing it's a great time to be selling right now just because of supply and demand.
My watch won't let me progress into December.
Nice.
All right, so question number 2 is, will I be able to buy a home for a better price in the winter?
I would say based on the data this year, not as much because inventory is so limited. That's naturally going to force prices up or make it a more competitive environment. So I would say you're not necessarily going to be buying a home at a better price. Keep in mind, the long term though, if you're buying a home right now, you're locking in a tremendous interest rate. So, I see buyers get fixated on this of I need to get a deal. Well, if you're buying for your primary residence and you plan to stay on there, a long term, it's really going to be the market appreciation and what you do to that home that's going to determine whether or not it was a good deal.
So I'm going to bounce off my own personal question on that.
Yeah.
So let's say I was looking at a home that was listed in December. There's a comparable one that comes up in spring. Which one on average do you think is going to be cheaper to wait until spring? Or do you think that's going to generally go up in price?
With it forecasting that home values are going to continue to appreciate, if you wait that 3 to 4 months, it's probably going to be more expensive in the spring, and interest rates might tick up a little bit. So not only is the price going to be more, but the cost of your mortgage is probably going to be a little bit more too.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So our last question is, am I losing money by listing my home in the fall and winter? Is it worth it to wait for the spring market? That was kind of similar to what I just asked, but
yeah, kind of the same question. But once again, based on the data we're looking at, not necessarily the case. Homes are selling at good prices right now. So no, I don't think you're necessarily losing money.
All right, and that was it for the questions.
Cool, awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you guys for tuning in. That was episode number 13. If you have any show topics that you'd like us to talk about, go ahead and hit us on social media. Daniel will put our contact information below. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us for the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please contact Chris Elliott at chris@chriselliottrealestate.com or by phone at 804-980-1898. And please join us again next time for the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show.